Seattle, Washington, a city known for its misty mornings and the ever-present hum of urban life. For me, it was the perfect place to start fresh. At 28, I had moved into a modern apartment complex in the Capitol Hill district, an area vibrant with nightlife and coffee shops. The building was secured with keycard access, surveillance cameras, and an on-site maintenance team. I felt safe until the letters began arriving. It started as a single note left taped to my apartment door. Written in neat, precise handwriting, it simply read, "You looked beautiful in that blue dress today. I love seeing you smile." At first, I dismissed it as a misplaced letter or a prank from a neighbor. But the notes kept coming. They became more detailed, describing my daily routine with unsettling accuracy. "You stayed late at the office last night, working hard. I see you like chamomile tea before bed. It suits you. Why do you always double-check the locks? Don't you feel safe here?" My discomfort grew. I never saw anyone suspicious around my building, and the security cameras in the hallways captured nothing unusual. But deep down I knew someone was watching. The true horror began 3 weeks later. One evening, after returning from work, I found a manila envelope slipped under my door. Inside were dozens of photographs. All of me. Some were taken from a distance, showing me leaving for work, walking in the park, or sitting by my window reading. But others were far more disturbing. Images of me sleeping in bed, taken from inside my own apartment. Panic set in. I called the Seattle Police Department, SPD, immediately. Officers arrived, examined the photos, and noted the lack of forced entry. How had someone gotten inside? The police advised me to install additional locks and set up a hidden camera inside my apartment. 2 nights later, I was reviewing footage from my new security camera when I saw something that made my blood run cold. At exactly 2:37 a.m., the camera picked up a dark figure standing outside my window, motionless. The man stood there for 2 hours, never moving, never trying to enter, just watching. Terrified, I reported the footage to the police, who increased patrols around my building. But no one was ever caught, and the figure never reappeared. Or so I thought. I started noticing strange occurrences inside my apartment. The feeling of being watched even when I was alone. Items like clothes, books, and even my toothbrush being slightly moved. The scent of cologne I didn't recognize lingering in the air. One night, I woke up to the sound of soft breathing. My heart pounded as I lay frozen in bed, straining to hear more. Silence followed. Was it my imagination? Or was someone inside the apartment? Desperate for answers, I hired a private security consultant. They conducted a thorough sweep of the apartment and made a horrifying discovery. In the air vent above my bed, they found a tiny drilled hole, just large enough for someone to peer through. When police investigated further, they uncovered a hidden tunnel in the building's basement. Inside, they found a sleeping bag, food wrappers, a collection of my stolen belongings, and a notebook filled with detailed entries about my daily life. Authorities traced the tunnel's access points and were shocked to discover the stalker's identity. Daniel Myers, the building's maintenance worker. Daniel had worked at the complex for over 5 years, giving him unrestricted access to every apartment. He had stolen a master key, letting himself into my unit while I was at work or asleep. His obsession had escalated over time. He had installed hidden cameras, watched me through the vents, and even stood outside my window at night. The police found surveillance footage confirming his lurking presence for months. Daniel Myers was arrested and charged with stalking, burglary, and unlawful surveillance. During police interrogations, he showed no remorse, claiming, "I never meant to hurt her. I just wanted to be close." I moved out of Seattle immediately, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. Even today, I suffer from paranoia, nightmares, and severe trust issues. Experts believe Daniel Myers exhibited classic signs of erotomania, a delusional disorder where an individual believes someone is in love with them despite no evidence. His behavior also showed elements of obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, and voyeurism, which escalated to dangerous levels. My story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes, the most dangerous people are the ones you least suspect. In modern cities, where security is assumed but not guaranteed, vigilance is key. If you ever feel like you're being watched, trust your instincts. Because in my case, my worst fear was not just paranoia. It was real. I never believed in ghosts, but for a while, I thought one was haunting me. The phone calls started at exactly 3 a.m., distorted, distant, and filled with nothing but slow, deliberate breathing. Our security system failed without reason. Our dog, Baxter, would growl at empty doorways. Then the messages appeared, etched into the bathroom mirror after every shower, as if whispered by the house itself. First, I thought I was losing my mind. But the truth was far worse. Someone was watching me. Someone who knew me better than I could have ever imagined. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and this is the story of how my past came back to torment me in the most terrifying way imaginable. It started 2 months after my husband, James, and I moved into our new home in Chicago. We had just gotten married and were eager to start our lives together in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. The house was perfect, a charming 2-story home with a backyard for our golden retriever, Baxter. Everything felt like a dream come true. Until the calls began. The first one came at exactly 3 a.m. I groggily reached for my phone, thinking it might be a family emergency. But when I answered, there was nothing, just deep, slow breathing on the other end. "Hello," I whispered, still half asleep. The breathing continued, heavy and deliberate. A chill ran down my spine. I hung up, assuming it was some random prank, but the calls didn't stop. Every few nights, my phone would ring at the same time, and each time, there was only that eerie breathing. I blocked the number, but then the calls started coming to our landline. James was skeptical at first, thinking it was just a telemarketer or a harmless prank, but when the home security system began to fail, he grew concerned. One night, after another silent call, I got out of bed to check the house. The security panel by the front door flashed an error message. Our cameras had shut off. When James checked the footage the next morning, the last recording showed static for 10 minutes before the cameras failed. It was as if someone had jammed the signal. Baxter also started acting strangely. He would bark at empty hallways, stare at corners of the room with his hackles raised, and whimper in fear when left alone. One night, he refused to go into our bedroom and instead sat at the door, growling at something unseen. Then came the messages. One evening, after stepping out of a steamy shower, I noticed something on the mirror. Faint words appeared as the condensation cleared. "Miss me," I gasped, my heart pounding. I wiped the mirror with my hand, hoping it was just my imagination, but the words didn't smudge. It was as if they had been etched into the glass from the inside. I called James in, and by the time he arrived, the message had disappeared. I could see the concern in his eyes, but there was nothing he could do. The next night, another message appeared after my shower. "Still beautiful." That was when I knew someone was inside our house. We called the police, who did a sweep of the property but found no signs of forced entry. They advised us to change our locks, which we did. They also recommended upgrading our security system. James had every camera rewired and set up new motion detectors, but that didn't stop the intruder. A week later, James woke up to the sound of our bedroom door creaking open. He bolted upright, expecting to see Baxter, but the hallway was empty. I was still asleep, but he swore he heard slow, deliberate footsteps retreating down the stairs. He grabbed a baseball bat and searched the house, but once again he found nothing. The doors were locked, the windows were secure, and yet someone had been inside. The final piece of the puzzle came when I recognized the voice on one of the recordings. James had set up a secondary security system, one that wasn't connected to the internet, and one night it captured something chilling, a faint whisper over the intercom. "Lauren, you were always mine." My stomach turned to ice. I knew that voice. Had been years, but I could never forget it. It was Eric Monroe, my high school boyfriend. Eric and I had dated for 2 years, but our relationship had ended badly. He had been possessive, obsessive, and controlling. When I broke up with him, he didn't take it well. He would show up at my house unannounced, leave notes on my car, and call me repeatedly from different numbers. Then one day he just disappeared. His family claimed he had run away. They filed a missing person report, but after a few months, the case went cold. No body was ever found. No signs of where he had gone. It was as if he had vanished off the face of the earth. Except he hadn't. Eric had never left. He had been hiding in plain sight, watching me, waiting. When police searched the property again, they made a horrifying discovery. There was a hidden crawlspace beneath our house. Inside, they found a sleeping bag, old food wrappers, and a collection of my belongings that had gone missing over the years. An old scarf, a hairbrush, a framed photo from my college graduation. Worst of all, they found notebooks filled with detailed observations about my life. What time I left for work, what I wore each day, what I ate, when I was alone. He had been living beneath us the entire time. The police tracked him down a week later in an abandoned building just a few blocks away. When they arrested him, he refused to speak, only staring at me with an unsettling smile as they dragged him away. Eric was charged with multiple counts of stalking, trespassing, and unlawful surveillance. In court, psychological experts diagnosed him with delusional disorder and erotomania, the obsessive belief that someone is in love with you even when they're not. James and I moved out of that house immediately. Even though Eric was locked away, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of a floorboard, every shadow in the corner of my eye. It all felt like him, still lurking just beyond sight. I still check my mirrors after a hot shower just in case.
I've always considered myself a rational guy. I live in Manhattan, work in tech, and spend most of my time alone in my apartment on the Lower East Side. It's a small, rent-stabilized one-bedroom tucked between two old tenement buildings. Not glamorous, but it's home. Or at least it used to feel that way. It started with little things. A protein bar missing from the pantry. A shirt I swore I'd hung up gone from the closet. A toothbrush that looked used. I chalked it up to forgetfulness or maybe even a neighbor messing with me. I live alone, but my building's old, creaky floorboards, paper-thin walls. I tried to ignore it. But over time, the disappearances became too specific to dismiss. I'd buy groceries and 2 days later, half of it would be gone. Socks would vanish in pairs. I found the TV slightly tilted, the remote in a different spot than I remembered. The most chilling moment came when I noticed a coffee cup, my favorite blue one, washed and placed back in the cabinet. I hadn't used it in weeks. I told a friend and they laughed it off. Dude, you're probably just sleepwalking. But I knew better. Something wasn't right. So I bought a set of cheap hidden cameras off Amazon and installed them around the apartment. One in the kitchen, one in the living room, and one facing my bed. That first night of footage changed my life. Around 2:46 a.m., the camera in the kitchen picked up motion. I watched, frozen in disbelief, as a figure slowly emerged from behind the floorboards of my pantry. Not through a door, through the goddamn floor. A gaunt, pale man, barefoot, with sunken eyes and long, unkempt hair. He moved like he belonged there. Calmly. Quietly. He opened the fridge, drank from my milk carton, and took bites out of a sandwich I'd left. Then he walked to the living room, sat in my chair, and stared at the blank TV for nearly an hour before vanishing back under the floor. I couldn't breathe. I played the footage again and again, hoping it was some glitch or prank. But there was no denying it. Someone had been living in my apartment. Not beside me. Beneath me. I called the NYPD the next morning and showed them the footage. At first they were skeptical. But once they saw it, everything changed. Officers came and did a full inspection of the apartment. At first they found nothing. Then they noticed the pantry floorboards were loose. Beneath them was an old maintenance hatch I'd never noticed, probably sealed up decades ago when the building's infrastructure was redone. What they found underneath was something straight out of a nightmare. The hatch led to a narrow concrete tunnel that descended into a forgotten sub-basement of the building. Apparently, in the 1920s, the structure had been connected to a network of steam tunnels and utility corridors, long since abandoned. The man, my stalker, had been living down there for at least 2 years. They found a mattress, piles of old clothes, stacks of takeout containers, and a collection of my personal belongings. Photos. Hair. Even a journal with entries like, He looked sad today. Maybe I'll leave something nice out for him. He sleeps on his right side. I like watching his back rise and fall. I'm part of his life now. He just doesn't know it yet. The police identified him as Raymond Griggs, age 41. He had once lived in the same unit I now occupied. According to building records, he moved in 2006 and was evicted in 2017 for failing to pay rent. Only he never really left. After the eviction, he disappeared. His family assumed he was homeless or dead. But instead, he stayed hidden, retreating into the underground maze beneath the building. Raymond had created an elaborate system of access points through old maintenance tunnels, and he only came out at night, slipping into the apartment while I slept. He never took anything that would alert me too quickly. Just small things, food, clothes, toiletries. Things that wouldn't raise alarms. Until they did. The psychological profiling done during his arrest painted a deeply disturbing picture. Experts believed he suffered from severe schizophrenia and obsessive-compulsive disorder, likely triggered or worsened by his isolation. But more terrifying was the depth of his delusion. He believed we were roommates. He thought we were friends. During interrogation, Raymond reportedly said, "I didn't mean to scare him. I just didn't want to be alone down there. I was quiet. I watched over him. I made sure he was safe." He genuinely believed he was doing me a favor. Raymond was charged with multiple counts of burglary, unlawful surveillance, and trespassing. Due to his mental health condition, he was committed to a psychiatric facility instead of prison. But that didn't bring me any peace. 4 weeks after his arrest, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floor, every gust of wind through the vent felt like him, watching, waiting. I moved out within a month. I left the city altogether. People often ask me how I didn't know. How could someone live beneath your feet, watching you, and you never suspect a thing? But New York is a strange place. Old buildings hold secrets. We're so used to noise, to chaos, that it's easy to tune things out. Until one day it's staring you in the face. Even now, years later, I wake up in the middle of the night and check under the bed. I can't look at a pantry the same way. And sometimes, I swear I still feel eyes on me when I'm alone. The scariest part wasn't that he was there. It's that for 2 years, I was never really alone.
People say Austin, Texas is weird, in a good way. That's what drew me there. I was a sophomore at the University of Texas, majoring in communications, living just off Guadalupe Street in a modest apartment complex popular with students. It was vibrant, walkable, and always buzzing. Felt safe there. Until I didn't. It began with something I almost didn't notice. A black car. A mid-2000s Honda Accord with a faded bumper and dark-tinted windows that kept appearing in my peripheral vision. At first, I convinced myself it was coincidence. Austin isn't exactly short on cars, and the area near campus is always packed. But it wasn't just parked nearby. It moved when I moved. I'd see it parked down the block in the morning, behind me on the drive home, or even idling near the parking garage where I left my car. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was taking night classes twice a week and usually walked home after dark. Maybe I was just jumpy. Maybe I watched too many true crime documentaries. But then things escalated. One evening after class, I found my car with both rear tires slashed. No note. Nothing stolen. Just flat tires in a dimly lit campus parking lot. Campus police filed a report but chalked it up to vandalism. That same week it happened again. This time I was parked at my apartment complex. A neighbor mentioned seeing a man near my car, crouching, but they assumed he was working on it. He wasn't. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the hallway made my heart race. I kept checking the blinds, the door locks, the hallway. I started carrying pepper spray and took a different route home every day. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was always a step behind me. Then came the night that confirmed my worst fear. It was a Thursday. I'd stayed late at the library preparing for midterms. By the time I got to my car, it was nearly 11:30 p.m. The parking lot was mostly empty. As I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat, everything felt off. You know that feeling when you just sense you're not alone? That something is behind you. I started the engine, adjusted my mirrors, and that's when I saw him. Man. Sitting silently in the back seat, staring directly into my eyes through the rearview mirror. I screamed, slammed the door open, and bolted. I ran so hard I dropped my keys and kept going until I reached the security booth at the library. Campus police arrived within minutes. They found my car still running, doors wide open. But the man was gone. When I gave my statement, I could barely speak. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept thinking, what if I hadn't looked? What if I'd started driving? The investigation uncovered something far worse than I imagined. Security footage from campus parking lots revealed that the same black Honda had followed me for weeks. Police found evidence that someone had been breaking into my car at night. There were fingerprints on the inside of the back doors and traces of mud on the floor mats. Not from me. Worse still, they found a folded blanket, an empty water bottle, and snack wrappers hidden under the passenger seat. Someone had been camping out in my car, waiting. The suspect was identified 2 days later. His name was Ryan Keller. He was in one of my general electives, Media Theory 101. I barely remembered him. He was quiet, sat in the back, never raised his hand. But according to investigators, he had been tracking me for months. Ryan had created a detailed spreadsheet of my class schedule, dorm locations, grocery trips, and even the times I went to the gym. They found GPS tracking software on his laptop and receipts for a small tracking device he had attached to the underside of my car. When they searched his off-campus apartment, they uncovered a small wall shrine. Photos of me printed and taped, some taken from social media, others clearly shot from a distance. One picture showed me inside my apartment, cooking, taken from the outside through the blinds. I hadn't closed them all the way. Police arrested him on charges of stalking, breaking and entering, and attempted kidnapping. The psychological report was chilling. Ryan exhibited characteristics of erotomania, a delusional disorder where a person believes someone is in love with them despite no actual relationship. His journal was filled with pages like, "She smiled at me in class. She wants me to say something. Soon she'll know we're meant to be together. I just need the right moment." He never intended to hurt me, he said during questioning. He just wanted to be close, to make me notice him. After his arrest, I had to testify. I moved out of my apartment, changed my phone number, deleted my social media, and transferred to a different campus for the rest of the year. Even now, I keep my car doors locked, check the back seat every time, and avoid parking garages alone. Sometimes I still see his eyes in the mirror when I drive at night. What's terrifying is how close it came to being worse. One more minute, one more stoplight, one more moment where I didn't look up. They say trust your gut, and they're right. If you feel like you're being followed, if something doesn't sit right, it probably isn't. I almost became another face on the news. I almost became a headline. But I didn't, because I looked, and he was there.